It was Christmas Eve. The white snow lay still in the yard. It was getting dark. Warm light flowed from the windows of the living room and kitchen. They were setting the Christmas table in the house. Soon the whole family will be in a dispute. The gnome father and Polka hid in the hayloft, watching worker Oscar gather firewood. He was careful not to dirty his outfit. Through the holes drilled by a woodpecker, they watched Oscar gathering firewood. Careful, afraid to dirty his festive outfit. He rarely wears a suit. Look at how careful he is, afraid to dirty his festive outfit. Yeah, don't see him in a suit very often. Look, the master is coming back from the station with a sleigh full of relatives. Polka noticed. So soon, all the children will come to the stables to feed the horses Christmas dinner. City guests love this kind of thing. Yeah. And then I suppose they'll want to offer the gnomes some Christmas porridge, too. The father chuckled to himself. All you can think about is porridge, Polka said. What's so special about her? Mom cooks this herself. Maybe that's true, the father replied. But it's not just about the porridge itself. People bring it to the gnome as a sign of respect. This means that they are grateful to him for everything, what he's done for them, and they don't want to quarrel with him. An angry gnome brings people misfortune and troubles. And if I'm not respected, I can get angry. You see, baby, when you've been amazed by your hard work all year? Polka giggled. You said amazed, but you should say exhausted. Father tried to put on an air of importance, but it didn't work out. You have no shame or conscience, he sighed. Stop making fun of the old man. Today we don't have time for any nonsense. The gnome grabbed his daughter by the hands, and they started spinning in a dance. Today is Christmas. We'll go downstairs and have a taste too. Christmas dinner? Uh-huh, Polka exclaimed. And then we'll go see the Christmas gnome. Uh-huh, her father mimicked her. And then we'll go for the Christmas porridge. The gnomes lived in the hayloft, behind a door that no one else noticed. If you look from the outside, you wouldn't understand that someone lives behind this wall. You step through the door and see a spacious room with plenty of space for a family of gnomes. The mother of the family was setting the table, while Polka stirred the boiling brew in a large pot over the fire. He's already grown up, soon he'll be 11 years old. This task was considered an honor in the gnome family because the Christmas dinner was the most festive meal of the year. Gnomes don't eat meat, so they don't have a Christmas ham. Instead, they make a stew from various herbs, berries, and mushrooms they've managed to gather over the year, from the first bud of the mother and stepmother to the last frozen milk cap. Instead, they make a stew from various herbs, berries, and mushrooms they've managed to gather over the year, from the first bud of the mother and stepmother to the last frozen milk cap. They bake bread from 4 types of grains. And their beer is extraordinary. The younger the person drinking it, the weaker and sweeter it is. The older, the stronger and more bitter. That's why the little Saw, who is barely 4 years old, drinks beer, no less than her old grandfather, who had just turned 427. The father and Polka were telling the others what people do, but the mother was only half listening. She was thinking about one thing she needed to take care of that evening. It was a very serious matter. She was thinking about one thing she needed to take care of that evening. This matter was very serious. That's just how gnome women are. They always know all the most important things, even if they don't see it with their own eyes. Or even if it hasn't happened yet. So you can often hear something like that from them. In the living room, a little ember jumped onto Pole. Hurry up and put it out. Or, Anna is going to fall off the bed soon. Run and get a chair. But now the mother was thinking about something else. She knew that this time the homeowner would forget to put out a plate of Christmas porridge for the gnomes. In recent years, people have completely stopped paying attention to this. They just go on about their Christmas gnome, and they don't care about the real gnomes anymore. Even children have forgotten. They probably think that one Christmas gnome is enough. Why should we translate porridge for others? They just don't understand that not all gnomes are the same. Once upon a time, a long time ago, they forgot to bring the gnomes some porridge. And the gnome father got so angry that misfortunes happened in the house all year long. Can you believe how it got to him? He's actually such a good guy. So, it means that this year they will forget about the Christmas porridge again. The gnome's mother knew about this in advance. We have to do something. I can't just sit back and watch people suffer all year long. So, my boy, when are you going to go get the porridge? The grandfather asked the gnome father. But I don't want any porridge, said Pilka. It's still a bit early, replied the father. First, let's taste the Christmas soup and... Maybe I can help you carry it? Huh? Heh. Grandfather laughed. The father hesitated. He couldn't think about anything other than the porridge. So why not? I'll go take a look, he said. Who knows? The gnome mother seized the moment and pulled Polka and Polka aside so that the gnome father wouldn't hear their conversation. I need your help, but not a word to your father. I need your help, but not a word to your father. People will forget to bring him the porridge. Just not a word to father. People will forget to bring him porridge. We need to get it ourselves. Yes, in a way that the father doesn't suspect anything. Besides, we have to remind people that we exist. Just don't forget, we need to do it in a way that no one sees us. A gnome that is seen by people loses its magical power. You know how it is? Here's what we'll do. She started explaining something quickly to Polka and Polka, and they nodded wisely. What are you whispering about? Asked the grandfather. They didn't have time to respond. When the father returned, porridge in sight. But there's still more to come. Don't worry, Grandpa. Of course. What's there to think about right now? Let's have a taste of the Christmas dinner. Please, take a seat at the table. Everyone sat down at the table and got ready. There's Christmas soup with bread and beer. They ate for a long time and with pleasure, taking turns telling each other stories. The most memorable stories from the adventures they had over the year. All the gnomes were excellent storytellers, and there were enough stories for a long dinner. Especially Dad put in a lot of effort. Actually, he remembered a story that happened 150 years ago. But in the end, what difference does it make? And then the mother Gnomika says, You know what? What? No, what are you talking about? Christmas gnome. We want to see it too. The children shouted and ran away. Wait for us. We want to see him too, said the father. What? Are you crazy? Where are we going in the middle of the night? It's so cozy here, Grandfather protested. They just want to admire the Christmas gnome, replied the gnome father, taking Dee Dee by the arm. Do you remember, he has been visiting people for many years now? Sigurd Srultava, in a red robe and with a long white beard. That's what they call him, the Christmas gnome. He brings and distributes gifts, remember? What other nonsense is this? Grumbled the Dee, but he still trudged along behind. They knew exactly how to get into the house and climb up to the tall cabinet in the living room, so that no one would notice them. The house was full of secret doors and passages known only to gnomes and mice. Sitting on the shelf, they started watching the people at the festive table. Coffee has already been served on the table. The people were sitting and talking. The children, huddled by the window, were peeking outside. The youngest girl, the restless Anna, was running from the window to her grandmother and asking, "Why is the gnome coming to us? What do we need him for? Why hasn't he come yet?" Exactly the same thought crossed the mind of the little saw sitting on her mother's lap. Suddenly, she heard someone stomping in the hallway, shaking off the snow from their boots. Then there was a knock at the door. "The gnome has arrived. Come in." "Finally," whispered the little gnomes. In the doorway appeared a man with a long white beard and a bag on his back. He was wearing a red coat and a red hat, just like the gnomes. But he was the same height as a person. The gnome father almost choked with laughter. What kind of scarecrow is this? The grandfather became tenser, and he imagined himself as a gnome. Goodness, what will they come up with next? "Shh," whispered the gnome father, barely holding back his laughter. "There are some good children here," the gnome boomed. "Ha ha!" Gnome father jumped up in place. What kind of gnome is this? He doesn't even know if there are any well-behaved children in the house. "Grandpa, do you hear? He's asking if there are any well-behaved children here." "What? Oh, my righteous one!" Grandpa croaked with a satisfied look. He definitely knows how things should really be. The other gnomes were also smiling. After all, gnomes know literally everything about people. Heaving a sigh, the Christmas gnome wearily nodded as he sank down into the chair. "Hello?" And he untied the bag. Shh, he's about to take out the bundle. And there will be mittens for Anna and Grandma. And you read what is written on the package, then you'll understand who this gift is for, the gnome father whispered cheerfully. Wow, he can read too. Let's take a look. One by one, the gifts found their owners. Christmas poems were being read aloud. The gift wrap was piled up. Happy smiles lit up their faces, and the curious and satisfied looks revealed the one who prepared the gift. Some people, joyfully, while others, cautiously, turned the newly acquired items in their hands. The gnomes watched the events unfold with great interest. Every time someone got a new bundle, they tried to guess whether the gift would be liked or not. They watched, listened, and discussed every little detail. Soon, all the bundles were gone. They watched, listened, and discussed every little detail. Soon, all the bundles were gone. Everyone thanked the Christmas gnome. The celebration continued. People were chatting, cracking nuts, solving riddles, and dancing in circles. They were playing hide and seek in a game called Draw the Pig's Tail. The kids were having fun with their new toys, and Oscar beat everyone in arm wrestling. The gnomes were enjoying the room's merriment. Observing and listening to people was pleasant, enjoying the joy that filled the room. What could be more pleasant than looking at people and listening to their conversations? Especially on a day like this, when everyone is having fun and feeling good. Little by little, the room was filled with a slightly tired, good-natured silence. It is during such moments of calm that the hostess usually asks if anyone would like to try the Christmas porridge. And there are always those who are eager to have some. And it happened this time as well. Plates were served on the table. Augusta brought in a huge bowl of porridge. The gnome's mother was just waiting for this. Now she clearly felt that no porridge would be brought to the gnome father. She knew that now Grandma would ask Anna if she was going to treat the Christmas gnome to a bowl of porridge. And Anna would already reply that she had offered, but the gnome girl refused. For the sake of all the porridge in the world, if only the gnome father didn't hear this, he will fly into a rage. He needs to be distracted immediately. "You know what, dear?" she quickly said. "One of our sheep is stuck in the fence. Go help her get free." "But they're about to serve us porridge. Let me admire it. I haven't seen this in many years." Something always happens at the most important moment. "Come on, hurry up, she's in pain. And the board in the fence, fix it. It's about time. Let's go." Sighing, the gnome shuffled to the door. Grandpa and the little saw, which was sitting on his lap, fell asleep. By the way. "And now, children, we can't waste a minute," said Mother Gnome. "Let's act as we agreed, and not a word to Father. He won't survive this." Mother and the little one quickly climbed down from the cupboard and hid under the bench in the living room. The little one ran through the secret passages that ended behind the face of the tabletop clock. As soon as the owner of the house put some porridge on his plate, the little one started turning the gear in the clock mechanism with all her might, and the clock struck 11 times. What's going on? Just recently it struck 10. The owner checked the time on the worn clock. Everyone turned silently and stared at the clock hand, which was moving across the face of the clock slowly, but still quite noticeably. What could this mean? The owner wondered. Getting up from his seat, he slowly moved towards the clock. A dead silence hung in the room. All that could be heard was the buzzing and clicking of the clock mechanism. When it struck 12, Mother and the little one hurriedly dove under the bench. Quickly, like mice, they scrambled up onto the table. Mother was surveying the surroundings, hiding behind a bowl of porridge. Everyone was staring at the clock without taking their eyes off it. Having gathered her courage, Mother picked up the bowl and handed it to the little one, and then she climbed down herself. First she got onto the chair, then onto the floor, and took the bowl from the little one, who jumped after her. No one saw them. The clock struck 12 times. All that was left was to leave unnoticed. Father was already heading back. "Well, well," said the owner with a bewildered smile, looking at the guests. It seemed he didn't know whether to laugh or be afraid. "Are you trying to make a fool of me? Or are there ghosts in the house?" But the others were just as confused and scared. The owner opened the door of the clock and touched the weights. The gnome woman was already at the threshold of the living room when Mother remembered that the porridge was missing a piece of butter. And butter for the Christmas porridge is just as important as the porridge itself. "We'll have to run back." "We won't make it," whispered the little one. "We'll make it. Go ahead, quickly." They rushed back to the table again. The hostess's chair was already empty. She stood a few steps away, horrified, looking at the clock. The gnome's mother climbed onto the chair, then onto the table, and there was the butter dish, thank goodness. Not looking around, she grabbed a hefty chunk of butter and plopped it right into the bowl. And then she noticed that Anna was looking at her. The girl was sitting very close and saw everything. Even a small gnome who only needs a piece of butter cannot hide from the eyes of a 4-year-old girl. For a moment their gazes met. But the gnome girl immediately jumped down to the floor and ran out of the room. Anna was unsure what was moving near the butter dish. She watched wide-eyed. "Mom, a gnome lady just took the butter." Then the clock stopped chiming and everyone talked, settled, and ate porridge. "Mom, a gnome lady just took the butter." At that very moment, the clock stopped chiming and crackling, and everyone started talking at once, settling into their places and digging into the porridge. What, sweetheart?" the homeowner asked again. "What is this all about?" The homeowner was outraged. "Who took my porridge?" "Andreas, did you hide it?" "I didn't touch your porridge." "It's the gnomes," Anna said. "I saw the gnome lady scoop up the butter and throw it into the bowl. There was another gnome with her. They ran away with the bowl over there." The girl pointed at the river. The homeowner looked at his daughter with a feigned seriousness and raised his eyebrows high, thus expressing surprise. His mustache hid a smile which vanished. However, the smile quickly faded from his face, and his eyebrows didn't lower at all. And now he really looked surprised and puzzled. "Did you forget to treat the gnome?" Grandma remembered about Christmas porridge. "Say thank you that the gnome lady's mother isn't as tough as the gnome. Otherwise you'd have to repent for it." Throwing himself into the river, the homeowner flung the door open to the street. In the snow on the porch, there was a round imprint and a multitude of tiny footprints leading toward the barn. The footprints were disappearing right before people's eyes. Andreas wanted to run to the barn to look for the gnomes, but his father did not allow it. "No need, you won't find them anyway." The people returned to the house. Now they will never forget to bring the gnomes Christmas porridge. The satisfied and content gnome father sat in his chair, smoking his pipe. Christmas was a success, yes, and the past year turned out pretty good. He was pleased with himself, because the people living in the estate were satisfied with him. They proved it, bringing him a generous portion of Christmas porridge. The children and Grandpa fell asleep, while the gnome lady stood by the window, looking out at the street. One by one, they extinguished the lamps in the windows across the way. Time to sleep. I wonder if people will remember the gnomes next year. And what about in 2 years? Or let's say in 10 years? She also wondered if being seen by the little girl would harm her magical powers. Anna? From now on, we need to be more careful. Maybe it's not so dangerous with a child? "What are you thinking about, Mother?" asked the gnome lady. "Oh, nothing at all," replied the gnome lady. "What glorious people live in our estate? Everything will be just fine for them." She placed her hands on the dwarf's shoulders. "And I'm also thinking about what a wonderful little husband I have. He always helps people when they can't manage on their own." The gnome smirked. "I wonder if they'll put such a big piece of butter in the porridge next year."